What is consciousness? Consciousness refers to the state of being aware of one's thoughts, surroundings, and experiences. It is the subjective experience of perception, awareness, and self-awareness. Consciousness is often considered a complex and multidimensional concept, and there is ongoing scientific research to understand its mechanisms and nature. It is also associated with a range of mental processes, such as attention, memory, perception, and decision-making. The exact nature of consciousness and whether it is physical or non-physical entity remains a topic of debate as well as investigation in philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, and other fields. This is popularly known as the hard problem of consciousness. The hard problem of consciousness. It is a term coined by philosopher David Chalmers to refer to the difficulty of explaining how subjective experience arises from physical processes in the brain. The hard problem of consciousness is the challenge of explaining why we have subjective experiences at all, such as the experience of seeing the color red or feeling pain, and how these experiences are related to physical processes in the brain. While we know that brain activity is necessary for conscious experience, it is not clear how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience. This is because subjective experience cannot be directly observed or measured in the same way as objective, physical processes. Generation of consciousness. Some researchers believe that consciousness arises from the interactions of neurons in different regions of the brain, rather than from a single location. Others propose that consciousness is related to the activity of certain neural networks or structures, such as the thalamus or the prefrontal cortex. One theory that has gained significant support in recent years is the Integrated Information Theory, IIT, which suggests that consciousness arises from the integration of information across different brain regions. According to this theory, different parts of the brain process different types of sensory information, such as visual or auditory signals, and these signals are integrated into a coherent experience through the activity of neural networks. Another theory proposes that consciousness arises from the ability of the brain to create models of the external world. According to this theory, the brain constructs mental representations of the environment based on sensory input, and these representations give rise to conscious experience. Recent research has also highlighted the role of neural oscillations, or rhythmic patterns of activity in the brain, in generating consciousness. It is thought that different frequencies of neural oscillations may be associated with different aspects of consciousness, such as attention or awareness. Consciousness is not located in a single cellular location within the brain, but rather arises from the activity of neural networks distributed across different brain regions. Consciousness in cellular level. The ORC or theory, also known as the Orchestrated Objective Reduction Theory, suggests that microtubules and their associated proteins, including tubulins, are involved in the generation of consciousness. The ORC or theory is a theory of consciousness that was developed by the physicist Sir Roger Penrose and the anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. According to this theory, Microtubules act as quantum processors that are capable of processing information at a level that is beyond classical computing, and this quantum processing gives rise to subjective experience. The ORC theory proposes that quantum states in microtubules collapse in a way that leads to the integration of information across different regions of the brain, which is thought to be essential for generating conscious experience. However, this theory remains controversial, and there is currently little experimental evidence to support it. What is the soul? The concept of the soul varies across different cultures, religions, and philosophical traditions. According to Swami Vivekananda, the soul is not just an individual entity, but it is a part of the universal consciousness, which is also referred to as the Brahman. In Vedic civilization of Nepal and India, the concept of the soul is known as Atman, which refers to the individual self or consciousness that is eternal and unchanging. The Atma is considered to be different from the physical body and the mind, which are temporary and subject to change. By realizing the true nature of the Atma, one can transcend the cycle of birth and death and attain ultimate liberation or moksha. The Vedic texts describe the journey of the soul through various stages of existence, including birth, death, and reincarnation. It is believed that the soul is reborn into different physical bodies based on its karma, or actions and deeds in previous lives. The ultimate goal of human life, according to the Vedas, is to attain liberation, or moksha, from the cycle of birth and death and merge with the divine. In Western philosophy, the soul has been discussed as the seat of consciousness, the self, and personal identity. As per French philosopher Descartes, the soul is a non-physical substance that interacts with the body to produce conscious experience. In ancient Greek and Roman philosophy, the concept of the soul, or psyche in Greek, and anima in Latin, was central to understanding human nature and the universe. In Greek philosophy, the soul was often viewed as the animating force that gave life to the body, allowing it to move and think. It was believed to be a non-physical entity that was immortal and capable of existing independently of the body after death. Greek philosophers, such as Plato and Aristotle, also believed in the idea of a hierarchy of souls, with higher souls possessing greater levels of consciousness and moral capacity. In Roman philosophy, the soul was viewed as a vital force that gave life to the body, but it was also seen as a reflection of the divine. The Roman philosopher Cicero believed that the soul was eternal and that it was capable of transcending the physical world to connect with the divine. The Roman poet Virgil also portrayed the soul as a powerful force that could survive death and continue to exist in the afterlife. Is consciousness the soul? As mentioned earlier, the soul and consciousness are two different concepts that are often discussed in philosophical, religious, and spiritual contexts. There is some overlap between the two concepts. Consciousness is primarily a psychological and scientific concept, while the soul is more often discussed in spiritual and philosophical contexts. The concept of the soul is not typically discussed in scientific contexts as it is a metaphysical concept that is difficult to quantify or measure in a scientific way. However, some researchers have attempted to approach the idea of the soul from a scientific perspective, although their definitions and approaches vary widely. One example is the theory of panpsychism, which proposes that consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe and that all matter possesses some degree of consciousness or subjective experience. It posits that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe and is present in all things, from subatomic particles to human beings. According to panpsychism, consciousness is not limited to higher-order organisms like humans or animals, but is instead a basic property of matter itself. Panpsychism can be traced back to ancient philosophy, but it has gained renewed interest in modern times due to advances in neuroscience and cognitive science. Some proponents of panpsychism argue that it offers a solution to the hard problem of consciousness, which is the question of how subjective experience arises from the physical processes of the brain. Some proponents of panpsychism suggest that this universal consciousness could be considered a type of scientific soul. Another scientific approach to the concept of the soul is through the study of near-death experiences and other spiritual or mystical experiences. Some researchers have attempted to study these phenomena using scientific methods such as brain imaging and physiological measurements, in order to better understand the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the brain and body. The more we are advancing, it can be said that the two entities, consciousness and the soul, are narrowing down day by day as a single entity and understanding. Thanks for watching.